Steelers fans, I have been doing this job for quite a while now, and I think I have a pretty good feel on Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, and this Pittsburgh Steelers organization, how they go about their business in the offseason. And to me, it is so obvious what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do at the quarterback position during the 2026 offseason. And today, I'm going to reveal the most likely target for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the quarterback position next year. And I just want to warn you guys, buckle up, because I don't think most fans are going to like what I think the Steelers are going to do. So make sure you guys stick around to see who that is. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I would do at the quarterback position heading into next year. Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I think the Steelers should do, and then I'll go into what I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will actually do, which is the thing that I think most Steelers fans probably don't want to happen, but let's face it, the Steelers are probably going to do what this fan base doesn't want to do for yet another offseason. But predict it for me down there in the comments section. Who will be Pittsburgh's Week 1 starting quarterback next season? Predict it for me down there in the comments section. If you have a hunch as to who it's going to be, let me know what you guys think down there in the comments. Now, let's start with what I would do, all right? If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers and I'm in charge of running this team and trying to get the next quarterback of this football team, I would trade Mike Tomlin to a certain suitor. Now, obviously, Mike needs to agree to do that, but I think, the best case scenario here is that Mike gets traded to a team with a very early draft pick, and you use a first-round pick swap to move up into the top 3 of the NFL draft. Now, again, the challenge is Coach T has to agree to go. And, if you're drafting in the top 3 and you're drafting really highly, obviously you don't have a very good football team. So is Mike really going to want to go to one of those teams? That's going to be a big question mark. Does he want to leave Pittsburgh? I really do think, guys, that Mike Tomlin's destiny here with the Steelers heading into 2026 is going to come down to whether or not he wants to come back. If he wants to come back, I think the job is his. If he wants a fresh start and agrees to a fresh start, I think the most likely and the best trade partner that he could potentially go to is the New York Football Giants, who currently hold the number 2 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Now, the reason why I think that the Giants have appeal in terms of the head coaching position that's open is that they have a historic franchise, obviously, with multiple Super Bowl championships in a massive media market. They've got a young, promising quarterback in Jackson Dart on a rookie contract with cost control over the next several years. You got multiple high-end building blocks on the roster at really big positions here, like quarterback, wide receiver, number 1 running back, nose tackle, all 3 edge rusher spots, and then, of course, left tackle. You got really great pieces at all of those key positions. And then also, obviously, they're not in the AFC. So if the Steelers are going to trade Tomlin somewhere, I think they'd prefer a team in the NFC. The Giants certainly fit that bill. And then in terms of trade compensation, I think it works out for both teams. The Giants get their head coach in Mike Tomlin that they want. They get some stability in their building. And then the Steelers can trade up to the number 2 overall pick to take their franchise quarterback of the future. And now, whether they include that extra second-round pick or not, I don't really know. The Steelers might even take this deal just to take the trade up, because the opportunity to take a quarterback as high as number 2 without having to completely lose a bunch of games and get there, quote-unquote, naturally, is a big-time opportunity that I don't know if the Steelers would be able to pass up. And with that pick at number 2, you can take your franchise quarterback. Now, obviously, there's going to be another team in front of you that likely takes a quarterback. Tennessee currently holds the number 1 pick. They would probably trade out of the number 1 pick, and somebody would take Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, or Ty Simpson, whoever rises to the top of the heap by the end of the draft season. But then the Steelers get their choice between 2 of those 3 guys, and I would absolutely be down for that if I am the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, for me, guys, Ty Simpson, if you're looking for somebody to play right away and to be your day 1 starter, Simpson would be the most ready for that. He has a lot of experience playing under center this season, and he's been really proficient in the play-action passing game from under center. He rips the ball over the middle of the field, all that different stuff, which I think the Steelers need to do much more of. Very proficient throwing over the middle and into the intermediate levels of the field. He's got good pocket presence. He can extend plays as well. I think that if he comes out, there's a chance that he could be the number 1 quarterback taken, just because I think he is ready to play at the NFL level. Despite really his lack of college experience, he's shown a lot of NFL NFL readiness in just his one season at Alabama. But I also really like Dante Moore as well. He runs a very college-esque offense there in Oregon. But hey, Bo Nix was able to go from this offense to the NFL in Sean Payton's offense and make a playoff run in his first season in Denver. I think Dante Moore has more arm talent than Bo Nix does. I think his upside is a lot higher than Bo Nix, and I love his poise under pressure, both in terms of actual pressure in the pocket, but also in big-time moments. He stayed really poised in that whiteout game against Penn State this year, one of the toughest, if not the toughest environment in college football today. He handled it with so much grace and poise. That's the kind of pressure, poise under pressure that I want in the future franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm also really good with Fernando Mendoza as well. Reminds me a lot of Jared Goff, only a little bit more athletic. Maybe not the most elastic arm talent in the world, but he's a big body, rocket arm, can layer footballs to all three levels of the field. Would be thrilled to have him be a Pittsburgh Steeler as well. But no matter who you pick, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got to bring in a bridge veteran on the squad, and you at least have to have one on the team. In case that rookie is not ready to go, you want to have that veteran in there that you trust to start and win some games before you eventually go to the rookie in his first season in the league. Now, you could go with Mason Rudolph. This would be the Mark Caboli route where you just keep Mason on his second year on his contract. You have to take on $3 million in dead cap if you release him next year. So you could always just go with Mason Rudolph as the bridge option. They like him. He's obviously played in this offense before. He's experienced, all that different stuff. This team has won games with him at quarterback. But with the way that he's played this year, do they really trust him to be a starting bridge option if that rookie is not ready to go? I'm not too sure about that. There's other bridge options that they could consider, guys that you probably don't consider long-term answers, but guys that you could give the reins to for a short period of time. Geno Smith was once an established franchise quarterback heading into this year. Heading into next year, that's not going to be as set in stone. He's going to have to prove himself yet again with probably a new team because I don't think he's going to stay in Las Vegas. Jacoby Brissett has played some really good ball for Arizona this year. I think he's the ultimate bridge quarterback option. Doesn't throw interceptions, really good under center, has got a really good arm still. Brissett would certainly be somebody I would be interested in as a bridge option. Kirk Cousins has played a lot of ball. Gardner Minshew has started a lot of games in this league. So has Tyrod Taylor. Obviously the highlighter in the room would be the high draft pick, the rookie quarterback that you take, but these guys could hold down the fort until that rookie is ready. So take your pick for me down there in the comment section. Who do you want to take? If you have the choice between these three quarterbacks, who would you want to take to be the next franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Type FN for Fernando Mendoza, DM for Dante Moore, or TS for Ty Simpson. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. And so in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about a great piece of Steelers apparel you can get for yourself or somebody you love this holiday season. While I tell you about that great opportunity, get your answer to that question down there in the comment section. And this is the piece of apparel I was talking about here, guys, the Salute to Service hoodie for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got that American flag patch on the side. You got the Steelers logo on the chest. You guys can get a great price on it right now when you use our link, chatsports.com/PittSalute25. Part of the proceeds go back to us here at Steelers Talk. So we get, part of that money to help us pay for new equipment and new graphics and all the stuff that we're currently doing right now here at Chat Sports to keep this content free for you guys. So if you want this sweatshirt for yourself or somebody that you love, it's a great gift to anybody in your life that's a Steelers fan. You can go chatsports.com/PittSalute25 to get this hoodie in your collection today. Now you might be saying at home, but Jack, why not just go with Will Howard as the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year? Well, I think there's probably two reasons. The first reason is that Howard was not, all right, no matter how much John Gruden slurps him, all right, he was not a high-end draft prospect last year, all right? Like, at best, I know some people thought he was like a day two type of guy. Really, most people thought he was more of an early day three prospect. Now, I'm glad the Steelers got him where they got him. I think it was an absolute steal to take a dart throw on, quarterback with some starter-level traits in the 6th round, and I love Will as a person. He's got great football character, hard worker, worker. He played his best football when it mattered most at Ohio State there in the college football playoff. He led two different teams to two different conference championships in college. He's got great size. He's a plus rusher. He's got some power to him with his rushing as well, which is another plus. He's got some good arm strength, can rip the ball down the field. He's got clean upper body mechanics. I think he's pretty good on his first read. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes on that first read. At least he didn't in college. But there are certainly cons, which led to him getting a day 3 grade from me, which is accuracy, especially to the short and intermediate levels of the field, was not super consistent. He threw a lot of floaters on his film at Ohio State, especially down the field. And part of the reason for that, in my opinion, is that he does have smaller hands, so sometimes he doesn't grip the football the way that you want him to, especially in colder environments. He also plays with a narrower base, which leads to some of those inaccuracies as well. I also don't think that he's the best in terms of getting off of his first read and going, full field progressions. I haven't really seen him do that a whole lot. And then pressure management. He doesn't have the best pocket presence either. So there's a lot of things on there that are really tough to teach in that con section that I think limits, his total upside. I think that he could be like a Derek Carr level starter, if his upside hits. But is that enough upside for the Steelers to completely pass on a first round quarterback if they have an opportunity to get somebody like a Ty Simpson or Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore? For me personally, I don't think that would be the case. We haven't seen Will Howard this year. We didn't even see him play in the preseason. So if we don't see him for the rest of this year, how can the Pittsburgh Steelers really trust him to take the keys of this organization and this offense and expect him to have a high level of success? I mean, we just saw what happened to J.J. McCarthy this year in Minnesota. He was a top 10 draft pick, and they went that route, and their season is completely trashed, all right? They completely wasted an entire season because they failed to bring back Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones and went with the rookie or, the young player instead. And, are we really suggesting the Steelers do the same thing, only this time with a 6th round draft pick? I personally don't think that's the best way to go about it, guys, as much as I like Will. And I honestly think at this point, Will's best chance to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year is if Aaron Rodgers just straight up goes to management and says, you do not want to draft a quarterback next year. This guy is the real deal. You have to start Will Howard. I think Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan would respect Aaron Rodgers' decision on that and his opinion on that. So if Rodgers goes to management and says, you got to start this guy, I think that's probably Will Howard's best chance of being named or at least given an opportunity to be the Steelers starting quarterback in 2026. And if you give Will a chance, you have to bring in legit veteran competition, in my opinion. This was the big problem with the J.J. McCarthy thing this year, right? They brought it, they said no thank you to Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, and they just anointed J.J. McCarthy as their starter without, knowing for sure that he really earned it. And, you saw the results. They didn't have anybody in that room, Brosmer, Wentz, anybody else that was capable of taking up that mantle and saving the Vikings season. So there's a lot of guys that you could theoretically bring in. You could bring in older guys that still have a little something to prove in Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, or you could go with a rehabilitation project as a younger player. Mac Jones has looked really good in San Francisco this year, but also Jacoby Brissett's another older example there that you could have being brought in as competition. But then like Anthony Richardson, Malik Willis, Justin Fields, Will Levis, a lot of these very talented early draft pick type of guys with a lot of arm talent, a lot of athleticism. We've seen guys like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff and all these kind of castaway type of former first-round picks turn around their careers in new places. If you're going to go with Will Howard and give him a chance, you have to also give somebody else a chance, in my opinion, and have those guys compete in training camp next year. All these guys, I think, would be on the table potentially. But all that being said, all right, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do either of these things that we've talked about today. We've talked about trading Mike Tomlin into the top 3 to take Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, Ty Simpson. That's the route that I would go. And we've talked about the idea of going with Will Howard, which I don't think the Steelers are going to go down. I think I know Mike Tomlin, and I think I know Omar Khan. And let's be completely honest with each other here, guys. Tomlin is likely going to be back next year. And like I said earlier in the show, I think Tomlin's destiny here in Pittsburgh will be determined by him. I don't think the Steelers will fire him. And, if Tomlin wants to, get a fresh start elsewhere and, is open to a trade, I think the Steelers would probably trade him, and, they'd be open to that. But I don't think think Tomlin wants to leave. I think he wants to come back for at least one more season here in Pittsburgh to finish out Cam Hayward's career here in Pittsburgh. And if that happens, I think they're going to go down the veteran quarterback route again. All right. And the reason why I say that is that teams don't win Super Bowls with rookie quarterbacks, all right? And if Cam Hayward only has one more year of his career, then, if you're going to go with somebody like Ty Simpson, Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, you might as well just trade Cam Hayward away for another draft pick because you're not going to win a Super Bowl with any of those quarterbacks. Let's just be completely honest with that. But from Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan's perspective, hey, if there's a good veteran quarterback on the market, let's go get him so that we can have a chance to go win a Super Bowl in Cam Hayward's final year of his career. And whether we agree with that thinking or not, if Tomlin is back next year and Cam Hayward is back next year, that's almost guaranteed to be their thinking in the offseason. And if that's the case, the veteran quarterback that is the most likely to come to Pittsburgh is Kyler Murray. All right, and it's going to come via trade. And I know, all right, I can already see you guys in the comment section. I'm with you on this. I don't necessarily want Kyler Murray either, but he kind of fits what Mike Tomlin would want in a franchise quarterback. So let's walk you guys through this. He's 29 years old, so he's played a lot of time in the National Football League, but if he can find a career renaissance here in Pittsburgh, he could play for another decade or so here in the Steel City if he works out. He's a former number 1 overall pick. He's got a ton of talent, man. Like his ability to extend plays, make plays out of structure, his arm talent, his rushing ability is some of the best out of any quarterback in the league still at 29 years old. But obviously he's tiny. Obviously 5'10", 207 is not the biggest guy in the world. And, he is likely to be traded away from the Arizona Cardinals this offseason. And the reasons why I think Tomlin in particular would love Kyler is not only because of his pedigree as a former number 1 overall pick, but he doesn't throw over the middle of the field, right? Plain simply because he can't see over there. So he likes to throw outside the numbers, likes to stay in that area. And we know Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kenny Pickett, all of these guys, what do they have in common? They don't like to throw in the middle of the field. So in that regard, Kyler is the perfect Mike Tomlin quarterback because he literally can't see over the middle of the field. So that's why I think Tomlin will love him. Also, dynamic rusher of the football. We know how much Tomlin cherishes the quarterback run game. It's why he liked Justin Fields as much as he liked him. And Kyler is still one of the more slippery, agile, and honestly fast quarterbacks in the National Football League today, even despite an ACL injury a couple years ago. And he has 7 years of starting experience. So if you're trying to one and done this thing and try and get Cam Hayward a Super Bowl, and you're not bringing back Aaron Rodgers, the guy that's got the most experience playing in the league probably would be Kyler Murray at that point in time. Now, if you trade for Kyler, guys, and I think it'd probably cost around a second-round pick to get him in the building or so, these would be the cap hits left on his contract that the Steelers would be on the hook for. $42.5 million in 2026, $36.3 million in 2027. That one's not so bad. And then in 2028, the Steelers would have a club option, so they could decide whether or not to pick up that option in 2028 for $46.3 million. But in the current landscape of quarterback contracts, guys, this really isn't that bad. And it's actually somewhat affordable. So if you can get Kyler Murray and he plays really well, this would actually be a bargain for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But personally, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I want to make it abundantly clear. This is not the road that I would necessarily go down, all right? Kyler's a fun player to watch, and, I'd be intrigued by it for sure if the Steelers did it, but it's not the road that I would go down. I would rather trade Cam Hayward away to a competitor and bring in a rookie quarterback to start building the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, you got to admit, guys, this has Steelers written all over it, all right? You're not going to have to give up a first-round pick for him. He's a former number 1 overall pick. He's got a ton of rushing ability and arm talent, and, the Call of Duty jokes would be going crazy and, all this different stuff, but I think that he fits Mike Tomlin and the Steelers to a T. And at this point, where I sit here today, guys, I think Kyler Murray is probably the most likely option to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Would you be happy with Kyler Murray as QB1 of the Pittsburgh Steelers next season? Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. section. For me, I would definitely have my doubts about it. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Now, I do want to finish up today's show by discussing another possibility here, which is that Aaron Rodgers could still theoretically return to the Steelers next year. Now, I think in order for this to happen, he's going to have a hell of a month of December and January. I think the Steelers will probably have to make the playoffs, and Rodgers will have to play pretty darn well during that playoff stretch run in order for the Steelers to even want him back. But, we were discussing earlier this season when he was playing at like a borderline top 10 level that the Steelers should bring him back for another season. And then, if that's the case, I think that's kind of the perfect setup for like a rookie quarterback, right? Because if you're bringing in Rodgers on another one-year deal, that would be the perfect setup for a Fernando Mendoza or a Dante Moore or Ty Simpson to walk into, sit behind Rodgers for a year, and then, when Rodgers eventually retires, you can pass the torch, and you don't have to force that rookie to make that crazy transition from college to pro in one season. So I have to acknowledge that that's still a possibility at this point. Rodgers will have to play a lot better down the stretch than he has over the last 6 weeks or so if it's going to happen, but it's still a possibility at this point in time. All right, that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. I appreciate you guys sticking with me here till the very end. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, here we go, Steelers.